Ladies and gentlemen, live and direct from S.STREET Media here in Brooklyn, Queens, or Queens. For all you people who ain't got nothing to do or just sleeping or want something to do, guess what? It's a radio show! An alternative means of alternative psychedelic masturbation. And what is going on, everybody? Here, once again, we are here, once again, live and direct from S.STREET Media. And I'm your boy, Will B.K. And I don't think I'm anybody else today. I'm just Will B.K. today. And, yeah, just Will B.K. today. And, you know, as you can see, our shit is always changing in here. One day you see Hardy here. Next time you see Energy here. Sometimes you see about somebody else here. Sometimes you just see me here. But I'm always here. So thank you for tuning in with me today, with us today. And, of course, there's no Hardy today. I don't know what Hardy is. I guess he's having a Hardy old time doing whatever he's doing some freakdom thing or at some type of posh
something interesting
thing, you know, being some unicorn in someone else's relationship or whatever. But next week, Hardy, we'll see you next week, I guess. But we do have the one and only sister who's got the dreadlocks, and she's our cuddlist extraordinaire. The silly girl from Philly, everybody knows her, and always here on Popular Demand. It's Jenergy that's back up in the spot with the Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you.
Wow, where'd you get that from?
Thank you. It was a gift.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I like it. Now, if that was mine, I certainly wouldn't be giving it away as a gift.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a loaner.
Oh, no, I probably would have loaned it, but I certainly wouldn't have gave it to you myself if it was mine. But you know,
it should be a gift.
It should be, but you know,
it's not.
Yeah. You should ask the person who you loaned it from and see how they feel about it.
I'll do that later.
Shoot. Okay. But we do have a special guest here in the studio, and once again another old colleague friend of mine who I've had the pleasure of working with when we were at Columbia Records. And she has come a long way from the time that I knew her, because I was still interning at Columbia Records, and she's done so many different things in the industry herself. I mean, she's a host, journalist, about to be an actress, and there's just so many different endeavors. About to be leading a magazine, and just like so many things, and former general manager of Rough Riders, and the label, and other ventures under it, and Black Bloodline, and DMX's label when he had it, Bloodline, and she was the president of that. So, I mean, she's just got a whole venture of shit going on in the industry. Everyone, this is Amelia Moore, or Amelia is Moore, whichever she likes going by. I think she goes by both. And this is the Trip Over Radio Show. We're an alternative means of psychedelic masturbation here.
Hey!
So, you know, so it bears. Amelia, how are you doing, honey?
I am well, and thank you so much for having me on this show.
Well, I appreciate you being here and stuff like that. So, I mean, I touched on a little bit about what you do, but you can give us a better rundown of who you are.
Sure, without dating myself, because you know it's not Vogue.
True.
But I've been in the entertainment industry for about 30 years. I started as a model. Shout out to Grace Del Marco and Dee Simmons and Audrey Lakatis. I was one of the underground soldiers. And then I got married. And at that time, my ex-husband was a producer. So being the supportive wife, and we talked earlier about giving, I decided to get into the music industry. And I started at the Time Warner. They had a temp program, and I became a temp. But then, I would do everything from holding the planes on the 30th floor to like the mailroom, you know. But then what happened is I got into the black music department of Atlantic Records and freaking loved it. I was like, leave me here. And DJ Fumi, shout out to Fumi, I love you forever. He was like, listen, I don't want to do this. I want to DJ. So I'm going to get sick real quick, quit, and you'll be the permanent temp. I'll suggest you as the permanent temp. I was like, cool. And that's exactly what happened. God works in mysterious ways.
He does.
And I had my dream job. And I was one of the, few females at that time really doing it. You know what I mean? So shout out to Kevin Woodley, Sugar Daddy. DJ
Yes,
Sugar
yes,
Daddy.
Sugar Daddy. And Shanique.
He actually, yep. And that's my baby girl.
Oh, I know her
he
too.
actually gave me the shot. And the rest is history. So then from Atlantic Records, after Kevin Woodley left, I worked with L.A. Reid's brother, Brian Reid. And then from there, I went to G Street. There I worked PM Dawn, Amber Sunshower, Dougie Fresh, Gravediggers. At Atlantic, Brandy, my baby girl, still my little baby sister. Jay and Dame were talking about starting Rockefeller every time they would get ready to go into the meeting with my boss. You know what I mean? So, like, that's legendary in itself. Like, I listened and heard why they started Rockefeller, and to see that manifest. We talked about that early. It's just looks so crazy to watch the seeds that we planted, and now they're like mega trees with branches and everything else, just covering and, giving everybody the necessary shade, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And coverage, and that feels so good. And so then from there, I started my own consulting firm, and shout out to Deidre Tate. She said, I got a client for you, and it happened to be the brothers and the sister in Yonkers. And I ended up meeting with Siobhan. Shout out to Siobhan Dean.
Siobhan.
Yes. And then what I didn't realize, okay, this was the irony of it, and this is how I knew I meant to be there. When I was at G Street, shout out to Domingo Beats, he put me in touch with Joaquin. Well, he didn't say his name. He just said, I got somebody that's got a demo I want you to listen to. And, you know how I do. If it's my people's, I'm like, yeah, all right, I got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, bring them in, right? So I met with him, and I had the DMX tape. I had the DMX demo.
Oh, wow.
And I tried to get John to sign it, but he was like, no, let's focus on what we got. So I always kept it. And then fast forward a year later, I was with them. It was so crazy. So I knew it was destiny.
Let me ask you something now, because I know that Puppy had said when DMX's tape came across Puppy's desk, he didn't really want to fuck with him because I guess it was too, I don't know, it was too street, too raunchy. Has that always been your experience? Has it been? Why do you think people have been apprehensive to first bring on DMX?
Well, I mean, when you think about DMX, Darkman Unknown, he had his own style. Shout out to DJ Superior, too, because he was the gentleman that worked with him before Rough Riders. And anybody that really wants to know his whole story, Earl's whole story, you really need to pick up a book, The Man Who Walked the Dog. Because that shows you the beginning. And I think to understand Earl is to understand his life. You know what I mean? And I think he was so innovative. I mean, he was growling. You know what I mean? Like, who does that?
It's almost like it's almost synonymous with like a howling wolf.
Yes.
With his, ow!
But it really wasn't, because of the mere fact that, if you really got to know Earl, he had a dog philosophy, a dog theory, and he would look at you and name you based on a dog. And it was so wild, because when you started paying attention to it, you were like, you know what, that person really is a poodle. Or you know what, that person really is a schnauzer. You know what, that person really is a pit bull. And they used to joke, and they say pit bull in a skirt. You know what I mean? Because there were certain traits that people have that's really analogous to dogs.
To a dog. Wow.
So it wasn't phony and it wasn't fake, and I think that that's the reason why he was accepted globally. Because one thing you'll learn in the entertainment industry is you can't fake the funk.
Right.
You can fake it and get that short minute of fame, but that greatness is based on originality, sincerity, and true, genuine gut. People feel that. Music is a vibration. And so when you give your all, like he always did on every record, you get that. And your body starts yearning it and feeling it. And when you want that vibration, you're going to go to that artist.
Right.
Go get it.
Right. And I think I mentioned this last week, I think it was. I said one of the first introductions that I had of D, when I was with Ashley, because Ashley Fox, shout out to Ashley, my mentor, and one of the two. And I remember there was an event that Sony Records or Columbia had threw some outdoor event, and DMX was there with his boys from Yonkers. Simultaneously, Nas was at that same party, and he was with his boys from Queensbridge. And so at that time, I know for a fact they really weren't properly introduced. Even though they were both at the same party, Ashley's both of their product managers, so they really didn't know. All you just know is Nas his boys, DMX and their boys. So there was a point at the party where they just happened to converge. So you got DMX and his boys is like, what? Nas is right there with his boys, and everybody's like, what? No one's at the parties really peeping what's going on. I just happen to be right there. I'm like, ooh. I had to go find Ashley, and she's like, what? Because you was talking. Ashley, I need to talk to you right now. All right, well, what's going on? I said, yo, Nas and his boys, and DMX and their boys, they're having a stand-up. She said, where? Over there. So Ashley goes over there, gets in the middle of both of them, just said, y'all cut that shit out. Y'all go over there. D, y'all go over there. Nas, y'all go over there. And they did that. So that was one of my first interactions between Nas and DMX.
You want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
Okay, so at Rough Rider, my role as general manager was like a lot of the planning and just the janitor work, basically. If something went wrong, I had to fix it, or if something wasn't right, they'd come and say, what do you need to do, or whatever. So sometimes, I would get the blame for something that was really a collective decision, right? So at that time, Steve Stout was at Interscope.
Shout out to Steve Stout.
Yeah, shout out to Steve. I really want to get up with Steve Stout. I'm loving what he's doing.
Oh, with the Knicks? Especially with the Knicks?
No, not that. The United Masters.
Oh, yes. So which is a new app where artists can actually
be their own label.
Be their own label and get their own masters.
Oh my God! Has he not gotten right? But here's the funny thing. So sometimes we would bump heads. Because the family wanted one thing and the label wanted another thing. And so I, like what Ashley did. So we're in a meeting and he says, you see that girl right there? And he points to Ashley, says, that's my you.
Oh yes, I see that.
That's what he said, and I always like, Steve, I love you, but there's only one me.
But
shout out to Ashley because she really did her thing.
She did.
But and she's still doing her thing.
Yep.
But that's the funny thing about it was how like the guys would like be like, okay, this is your role, and they sold my role. They said, I need one of her over here. You know what I mean? To counter all that they're doing over there. Right. It was really funny. Because one thing people don't understand about the entertainment industry, or in particularly the music business, and I've really been trying to drill this because there's so many independent artists now. Strategy.
Absolutely.
Stop just doing things. Do things that make sense and take you to the next thing, please.
Absolutely.
Learn that. And, not for nothing, I'm pretty good at that.
You are.
So...
Unfortunately.
Yeah, well, fortunate for
you.
Fortunate for the people that are on my side of the fence. Unfortunate for the people that are not on my side of the fence.
Absolutely.
So, but I've since changed. Well, you've known me when I was young. I was brass tacks, cut no chases, did what I needed to do, bull in a china closet. I've since polished that. You know what I mean? And so, I let the industry know that's the old Amelia. The new Amelia is talent now. So I'm more laid back. It's about the collaborative. It's about truly cooperative economics. And I do mean not the bartering. I do mean the cooperative economics. If I give you a dime and I need a nickel tomorrow, I can come to you. But if I do something for nothing and you do something for nothing, we have no nickels or dimes to share when we need it.
Right.
And we need to start educating ourselves on that because we've learned this bartering system and we've mastered it. I can't tell you some of the things I've done on no money.
Oh, it would have been...
Seriously.
Yeah.
But that no money, that made money, didn't become our money.
Exactly.
And that's why we got to start focusing on that. So, yeah, so strategy was my thing. And, so if anybody can come away with anything, and I think that when you look at Rough Rider, that's what we were. We let people understand that it's not where you're from, it's where you want to go. And to me, X was like the perfect example of that, because he had no inhibitions. And if he did, he didn't let you see it. You know what I'm saying? And he went after everything to the fullest.
And he was pretty honest about...
Yes, he was very honest.
Very honest.
If he didn't like you, you knew. He didn't necessarily say it, well, sometimes he did, but he didn't necessarily say it. Like, I think Drag said it the best.
Drag On.
Drag On said it the best. Well, he's my baby, so.
Another baby. You have a lot of babies.
Yeah, I do have a lot of babies. I have a lot of babies, a lot of baby brothers. Like, that to me was what DMX was to me, my baby brother. Like, and I was the one that always had to tell him the truth. Like, sometimes the news is not good news. But if I don't deliver it, I'm doing you a disservice. So sometimes he would like me, and sometimes he wouldn't like me. But he always loved me.
Okay. When you're delivering news like that to him, is there a strategy in delivering it to him, or do you look?
Yes. The worst thing that you could ever do with Earl is tell him he had to do something. Do not use that sentence, because he'd be like, I don't got to do it. Matter of fact, I'm not doing it. You'd be like, oh, man.
Oh, please don't beg on the table.
Oh, sorry. You'd be like, oh, man, I said the wrong thing. You know what I mean? But I was trying to stress the importance, so I had to learn, how to address certain things, how to say certain things. Shout out to Uncle
we
Ray.
need you to do this.
No, it was like, well, listen. No, it was more of like, what comes out of this is that if you did this Rolling Stone article, I know you don't want to sit with these white people, no offense, but yeah, exactly. But I'm just being candid, but and have them ask you all these questions that you've answered, because that was one of the things he couldn't stand. Stop asking me stupid questions, right? But I said, but the difference between being in a Rolling Stone and not being in Rolling Stone is, in Rolling Stone, you now get $500,000 for a show, or $1 million for
as opposed to doing a source. And
well, no, it's not even so much the source, because the source still had value, but it's like.
But I'm talking about in terms of the scale.
Yeah, but
But
it wasn't the comparative as much as it is the status.
Right.
Okay, it's never a comparative. That's something that we have to come away from, because each thing, again, strategy. Each thing has its own value.
Right.
And when you start understanding that, you then know how to cherry pick. If I need the streets, I'm not going to go to Rolling Stone.
Right.
I'm going to go to Don Diva, World Star, 50 Cent,
Jasmine
Source
Brand,
Magazine.
Right.
But now the Source, if I wanted to get a little political, and if I wanted to get a little bit more as far as the branding, but still be hip-hop, it's like corporate, but still be hip-hop, I'm going to go to the Source.
Right.
See what I'm saying? But if I want that pop market, if I want that mainstream, then I'm going to go to the Rolling Stone. I'm going to go to the Billboard. If I want the industry, I'm going to go to the See the difference? They're all great. They all serve their purpose.
Right. Were you ever challenged if you're going too white, or you're going too left, or you're staying too black? Were you ever challenged when it comes to that particular medium?
Well, that's always a dialogue.
Right.
And the answer to that is to stay true to your brand. And I think that's another mistake independent artists are doing. They're not paying attention to what their brand is. The R's brand was definite. You knew we mirrored the streets. You knew that you were going to get the bikes, the dogs, the music, you know what I'm saying, the crazy street teams. You knew this. And that's what you waited for. You see? And once you got that, that made you more in love. Because you got what you were anticipating more than what you anticipated, so you wanted more and you came back again.
Right.
See? There are so many artists that are out there that 1 minute they're doing this and the next minute they're doing that, and you don't know which one is really them. And they could be both, but you didn't segue it. You weren't strategic
Just
with
kinda
it for
jumping
them
around.
to understand.
Right.
You know, my consulting firm, Buzz Builder, right? Buzz Builder BMC, the Buzz Builder at Gmail if you want to get at me.
Yeah.
But gotta plug. But what I tell my artists is it's about the words first. You make the sentence. After you make the sentence, you connect those sentences to make a paragraph.
Right.
When you connect those paragraphs, now you've got a story. That's how you should build your career.
Mm-hmm.
Start with the words of who you are. Build a sentence to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Connect all those sentences with all the events and everything that you're doing to create that paragraph, and keep repeating that, so now you have a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the prime example of that was right now I deal with education and female empowerment.
Right.
You know, outside of the hosting, but my passion, because I always follow my passion. And I worked with, shout out to Elisa Pratt, I worked with a STEP team that stepped against gun violence.
Mm-hmm.
We've been working with these girls now for almost 6-7 years now. Yes, 7-8 years. I've been working with them for 5 years. These girls at McKinley Housing, it was one of the worst. The kids used to have to go around blood-stained crime scenes to get to the center, or sometimes we'd have to keep them in the center because there was shooting going on.
Right.
The girls did so much stepping and everything in advocacy, they stopped violence in their neighborhood for 276 consecutive days.
Oh, wow.
They winded up, that's the sentence, see? The first one was the words, stop the violence. The sentence became, we stopped it for 276 days. The paragraph became, We Day flew us to LA. Whoopi Goldberg came up to McKinley Housing and sent them the tickets. We go there, we go on television.
McKinley's in Yonkers.
Yeah, no, McKinley's in the South Bronx.
In the Bronx, okay.
Yeah, right next to Forest, where Fat Joe and all
Okay.
of them are from. Okay, so from there, they go to LA, all expenses paid. First time these girls were ever on a plane, right? They go in front of an audience of 20,000 kids and get a grant from Allstate for $20,000.
Wow.
Wow.
They met Morgan Freeman, Jennifer Aniston, and that was crazy. Selena Gomez. They're like, oh, you guys are the Clovers. These girls from the South Bronx was like, Jennifer Aniston just said she heard about us.
Wow.
The hell? But what made it really crazy was, and again, now we had the paragraph, right? That paragraph then became, they were on television stepping at the Barclay for 19,000 kids.
Wow.
In New York City. Now, what happened with that, and Nas was at that concert. What happened with that, unbeknownst to us, is the kids that was in our program, because our girls were now in high school, and we deal with middle school, we're in the center, and we hear this, oh, excuse me, stop banging on the table. We hear this, we hear all this stepping, right? And we're like, the girls are not here. But because the girls performed in front, and because the girls was from their neighborhood, they said we could do it too. When they saw that type of impact, the next thing, I'm at Adweek. Shout out to Shelley Zalis, the most amazing woman I've ever met in my entire life outside of Faith Hope Consolo. She says, I need a step team. I was like, I have a step team. She was like, I need your step team to come to South by Southwest.
Oh, wow.
The next,
That's one of the biggest
music conferences.
independent music conferences, usually
Next-
in Texas.
Right? So the sentence of us stopping 276 days, We Day becomes the second paragraph, South by Southwest becomes the third paragraph. Next thing you know, the woman who's in charge of global marketing for Facebook loves the girls so much because now they're stepping for female equality, because that's what the female quotient is about, right? She says, I want them to go to Cannes, France. Say what? Wait, what? What did you just say?
Nice.
Now, my 5 girls, along with my partner in crime, Elisa Pratt, we winded up having the girls have passports, and they was in a house in France,
Wow.
talking about
Beautiful.
bonjour in Cannes, the south of France. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Beautiful
nice,
story.
Nice.
So this is what I'm talking about. This is how you build strategically the story and your brand to the point where it's, and now I can't talk about it, but the next thing that these girls are going to do is even bigger than that. And we stepped for Verizon, Adweek, Facebook, Twitter, you name it.
Big one.
We were all in their station. They all know us. It's beautiful.
It's so funny because the thing about it, why artists are so short-sighted, going back to what you're just saying, they're so short-sighted and they still have this impression that it's about the music. It is about the music as a seed, but there, in terms of the foundation, but it's even in the music business, the business of music isn't about music. It's not about music.
It isn't. It isn't.
It isn't. It isn't. But on the further, but it's mostly about business and strategy.
Yes.
And
it's about audience and money.
Audience, right.
Supply and demand. That's really what it is. It's supply and demand. But if you don't know what you're supplying, how do you find out the demand?
Right.
And this is the era. And this is what we did very well. I mean, Dee, Siobhan, Wah, Ray, Ralph, Bish, Wink, Queen. I mean, Rough Rider was not just 3 people.
Okay.
It was thousands.
Exactly. Now, so some of the people, and I hate keep interrupting, Amelia. Some of the people that she's mentioning are the people that actually ran Rough Riders. Siobhan, Dee, and Wah are all brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. Dee and Wah are brothers. Siobhan is the sister. Those 3 actually made the triangular Rough Rider patriarch.
Yes, they were the family. Okay?
Yes, Dee, Wah, Siobhan.
Right. So Dee was kind of like the dude that had all the access. Wah was like the brainchild visionary. Mm-hmm. And Siobhan was like the administrator.
The little sister.
Right. And then what I did was help them understand the industry. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? How to navigate it. You know what I mean? Some things you should do, some things you shouldn't do. Like hold up on that. Oh, who's this person? What's that person? I was the gun with the silencer on it. Mm-hmm. That's the way I love to explain
Ray Copeland.
Ray Copeland is the manager. He was the manager of X. Well, I don't think he is anymore, but he was at that time because I think Steve Rifkin, when he passed, was
right. Yeah,
manager.
Steve Rifkin was a
was his current. Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying he was in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it was amazing to watch the dedication, and like as I reflect back on it, the people that just gave the love, and we talked about that earlier. The movement was so real and so genuine that as soon as you caught the fever, you were in.
Right.
And we were so accepting that once we knew you was in and you was real, you was in.
Right.
It didn't matter. We found a place for you. Whether it be the street team, whether it be, we found a place for you, or you got in where you fit in. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were people like Ice Pick. I loved him to death, but when he first came in, he didn't know anything about A&R. He didn't know what it was. I mean, I used to love when some guys would say, okay, Millie, they want me to do promo. What's that? All right, this is what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was my role. And, I left because my own personal life was falling apart.
In what capacity?
Well, depression is something that is very hard to detect. And unless you're really honest with yourself, you don't realize that you're in it. And so, like, at that time, my marriage was falling apart. And at that time, my father was dying of cancer. And I'm the only child. And I'm a daddy's girl.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So the 2 things that were, like, so important to me were nothing. And even though I was at the top of my game, it didn't fill that hole. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, I love you guys, but I gotta go. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't share it with everybody. You know what I mean? And there was so much going on at Rough Rider at that time. Mm-hmm. So many different ways that, it was so hot that everybody wanted a piece of it. Mm-hmm. And it was hard to watch everything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. And I was just like, my purpose here is really no more. And I had already transitioned from the record label to the lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And, shout out to all my bikers. You guys don't know how much you warm my heart every time I see y'all keep ripping up the streets everywhere, please. Because that was a business model that I actually did a lot of effort in that. You know, I'm a very humble person, so it's very hard for me to toot my horn. But a lot of what went on with that, as far as the business model, was my brainchild with Joaquin. Because while I was like, yo, Millie, I got bikers all over, and I want to start chapters, but, you know, I want the vest, and I want this, and I want help, you know, what do we got to do? You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, let me think this out. You know what I mean? So we winded up making the bikers like a street team for us that winded up recycling, and that business model is still in effect today. You know what I mean? And that warms my heart. Like, again, that seed that you plant becomes
the
this
evolution
tree.
of it.
And I don't care if anybody knows that I did it or not.
But
you see it.
You just get to see it happen.
You get to see it, and what better gift is that?
But we came from that the same generation in terms of we had to be, you know, we don't toot our own horns from that generation that we came through up in the industry. You know, today's generation now is, you know, you got to know who I am. I'm the one that does it. But that's not how we came up during that time.
Now, we were raised real G's walk in silence, and I still hold on to that.
You know, even though you might have been the one that planned the whole thing, you let them take the credit. You just, you know.
But here's the interesting thing, Will. You know, when DMX passed away, or actually when the news got from him with the hotel, my phone blew up. And my phone's been quiet because I'm dealing with other things now, right? It's still busy, but not like that. You know what I mean? And it was just so amazing to see so many of the people that I did business with remember me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And say, like, listen, girl, I know what you put in. Are you okay?
Right.
Like, how you doing? And shout out to all my true friends that called me, because y'all was the ones that got me through.
Right.
Because it was not easy. It was very hard. Still isn't. It still hasn't sunken. You know? But you keep on keeping on.
Let me ask you now. I'm asking now. I guess because I kind of experienced it also dealing with when I was at Interscope dealing with City High, and Robbie was going through drinking real hard. He was even on Intervention, that show on whatever fucking channel that was, and they canceled so many different shows, and he just couldn't kick alcohol and whatnot. So once I guess you got wind, or Rough Riders management label, you caught wind that have mercy, X was going through what he was going through. How involved were you to try to help him, or were you able to try to help him? Because usually,
what people need to understand about the Dark Man Unknown, DMX, X, Earl Simmons, whatever loving name you give him, he's his own man. Always was, always will be. And so whatever decisions he made, they were his decisions. And, you know, the thing that kind of hurts me is, you know, I don't know. I personally don't believe, and maybe that's just because I don't want to believe, that it was an overdose. Because I know where he was. You know, it's funny, when you become part of something, you don't have to be there to see everything. It's so wild. Anything that goes on with Rough Rider, I'm always getting a call. They could be in Texas. They could be in Europe. They could be, but because of where I was in the very beginning, certain people say, hey, yo, I just saw, da-da-da-da. And they don't even realize that they're still keeping me on top of everything. You know, and he was really doing a lot of ministry.
Yes, he was.
That was Earl's gift. And this is one of the reasons why I used to get mad at me. Because I'd be like, will you please just answer your call and start preaching? Will you please? Because every time you pray, I get chills. And what you have to say touches so many people.
Right.
Like, I personally feel, it was my own personal belief that that's what God put him here for. He went through all of that suffering and pain so that he could understand. You can't understand unless you experience.
Right.
And how do you touch somebody if you don't know the pain that they have? So that's the magic of him. That was the beauty of him. He could go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He could hang with the rich of the rich, and they'd be like, oh, he's so crazy. And then he could hang out with the hood of the hood, I mean the cut.
Right.
And they'd be like, yo, my nigga.
Exactly. With
Like-
no bodyguards or nobody, just
Well,
in it, whatever.
yeah.
You know, it's,
I mean, he always had his body.
well, of course, it's good to have, but, you know.
Yeah, shout out to him because
Yeah.
he's and shout out to Bill McCullough. He did something at Rocker Park the same day, Saturday, and I went to it. Because
Rucker Park's a park out in Harlem, but, you know, famous for the basketball games.
And
stuff
what
like
was
that.
beautiful, my whole journey was a spiritual journey with this passing and everything else, right? And X just kept on coming to me every single way I could think about it. Like even today, there was a puppy on 125th Street. Yesterday I saw and I petted him and he came running to me, right? His female owner was walking him. Today his male owner was walking to him. He must have caught my scent and came over to me and gave me all this love. I asked him, what's his name? Can I tell you what the dog's name was?
What was it?
X.
Oh, wow.
I messed up. You know what? I'm like, really?
Now, all this time, then you finally asked her what it is in X.
His name was X. And it was just so funny. And even my son looked at me and said, yeah, you can't make this stuff up. I'm like, but that's him. If anybody, I forgot. I think it was Drag that said it. But somebody said he's still with us. Somebody said that. And that's true. That's really, really true. I don't know how he's doing it. He's got that ultimate connection. But it's true. It's so true. And I finally accepted that. Like, okay, you're going to be with me spiritually. I know you're good.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah. What other message you're going to give me, I'm going to receive. But you know what I mean? Because the love is real. And even when we clashed, at Bloodline, oh my gosh. Even when we clashed, he knew that I was only doing it because I loved him and I wanted to see him win. I'll never forget it. So one of the things that I used to argue with him with...
Bloodline was DMX's label.
Yeah, it's private label. One of the things I always argue with him, and I mean really argue, because that was the other thing, like, now I'm a lot more docile. But back then, I was one of the boys. Like, really, I was one of the boys. So if you gave it to me, I was giving it back. And it wasn't about being emotional. It was about being passionate.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you going to talk to me like this, I'm going to talk back. There it is. So we used to have those kind of conversations. And I was like, you need to be in the office more. Never mind this, never mind that. This is your record label. You need to be here. You're the CEO. Yeah. Right? Long story short, he discovered certain things, and I had told him about it. He didn't believe me, right? So I left. 6 months later, I'm in the 825 8th Avenue. Everybody knows that building. It was everybody's building, Def Jam, everybody, Universal building.
Yep.
And his office was there. And I went to go see my friends at Rockefeller, right? And you had to pass by his office to get there.
Bloodline and Rockefeller was on the same floor?
After he moved. No, I'm sorry. It was Chris Gotti.
Okay.
Chris Gotti. Got it.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Got that twisted. You're right. Chris Gotti was in the corner and X was around this corner. His office was here. Okay. So I'm walking by and he's like, hey! I'm like, hey, how you doing? Great. I go in. He said, you see where I'm sitting, right? He was sitting at his desk. And I was like, yeah, but you should have did that months ago. But I'm glad to see you there. He goes, you can't give me the right. He started barking at me. But I was like, but I just, it's out of love. That's what a big sister does. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much. Like, I remember another time I had a client and he wanted to meet Earl so bad. So I was like, all right. And, Tashira, shout out to her. I love her to death. That's my baby girl. Shout out to Xavier, Praise, all of them.
Tashira's DMX's one of his ex-wife.
First wife. So we brought her with us, right? And he didn't expect it. It was a surprise. So the kids was there. We brought the kids too and everything. This to show you how much I am a sister. Right. So when it came time for everybody to go to the party, he was like, Mills, I don't really trust a teenager. I think they're going to dip. I need you to stay with the babies. And I was like, all right. But I mean, that to me, most people would piss a bitch right? Because it's like, no, I want to go to the show. I want to be the part. I was like, no problem. Because I know that that's the most precious thing he values. And for him to respect me to the level to watch them.
Trust you. Yeah.
Right. That's how I looked at it.
Yeah.
I didn't look at it as, oh, he's trying to give you punishment or whatever. No.
That he thinks highly
He
of
wanted-
you because he's asking you to care for his children.
Ding, ding, ding. And that was our relationship. And that's something that I never spoke about it, but a lot of people didn't know. But that was our relationship.
Beautiful.
We're gonna take a quick break here because there's so much more to cover. Here on the Trip Over Radio Show, it's just overwhelming the information. Some of the last stuff I knew, some of the stuff I didn't know. but we definitely will be back in a minute with your boy Will B. K, Jenergy, our guest today, Amelia Moore. It's the Trip Over Radio Show, no alternative means of psychedelic masturbation. We'll be right back.